Tell them all. Whoever comes, whoever it is, I'll kill them all.
A company as big as Microsoft may fail us, but you know what doesn't disappoint? God-tier fight scenes, that's what. Yeah, the only strikes coming here are from the most skilled fighters in cinematic history. And if you know the TV region, you'll be aware that I always give deserving candidates their flowers. So on that note, today I'm presenting to you the top 25 God-tier fights in the movies. We may all love the dragons from the big finale of this film, but don't forget that the real skills are on display during this emotional father-son bonding moment. Yeah, normal people may look at it as a fight, but any Asian will tell you that this is a normal interaction between a son and his dad. Alright, jokes aside, this was one heck of a fight, and the choreography doubles down on it despite the usage of CGI for the rings. We get to see some pretty cool moves as Shang-Chi and Wenwu battle it out to gain the upper hand. The stellar moment arrives when Shang-Chi gains possession of the rings, and yeah, that pretty much sealed the outcome of this one. Having said that, I also want to point out that Wenwu has tons of grit and determination, because that man just doesn't know when to quit. Also, is it just me or did Shang-Chi pull a Goku with that energy ball, eh? Come on, that had to be a Kamehameha reference, right? Chinese movies have been really getting into their excessive CGI era, but hey, as long as the output is better than the twerking She-Hulk, then I'm not complaining, okay? Now, 2021's A Writer's Odyssey was an interesting story because it mixed fantasy with reality with a lot of heavy inspiration from the famed Japanese isekai genre. Now, I'm not going to get into the plot because you've got Netflix for that. What I do want to mention is the epic fight scene between Redmayne and Kong Wenlu in the grand finale. It's a visual spectacle to say the least, and the god monster's design bordered on peak PlayStation graphics. Of course, you could argue that the scene felt more like a video game than an actual movie, but the battle is what matters here, and it was impactful enough for me. It was rather impressive to see someone as small as the Red Knight being able to counter such an overpowered opponent, even though he had some help towards the end. Either way, you should definitely watch this fight. It's almost 17 minutes long, but it is worth each and every second.
Come on! Let's do this together!
It's amazing to see how well this movie has aged. Guillermo del Toro really put in his best efforts for Pacific Rim. It's a shame that the sequel pretty much ended all hopes of a sustainable franchise, but hey, at least we have the OG film to fall back on whenever we want to watch god-tier battles between giant robots and monsters. The battle currently in question is the one between Leatherback and Gypsy Danger. The fight starts off perfectly with the kaiju looking back to notice the Jaeger coming in to rescue his buddies. The look on his face was like, there are more of you guys? The fight in itself was a treat to watch because we get to see Gypsy Danger's full range of attacks. He was totally dominating Leatherback, even though he managed to counter a bit. The ending was perfect, with the clip getting emptied and the kaiju getting disemboweled right before the Jaeger dipped into the water. Yeah, this is another case of CGI overdose, but once again, we don't mind as long as the quality remains consistent.
No pulse.
Chinese kung fu movies between the late 90s to the early 2000s will go down in history as amongst the most entertaining of all time, despite how over the top they are. Take 2004's Kung Fu Hustle as an example. There are so many hilarious depictions in this film, but even then, we can't help but enjoy what we're seeing. I mean, I'd probably watched this movie over 10 times, but I've never got bored of it at all. Now, when it comes to god-tier fights, we should look no further than the final battle between Sing and the Beast. The normal fight moves are fine, but what I really want to talk about is the freaky stuff. No, not that kind of stuff, okay? Get your minds out the gutter. Stuff like the Beast using the frog technique was so random, but at the same time, he had everyone hooked to the scene. And of course, Sing's Buddhist palm technique not only won him the battle, but also our hearts. I guess he told the Beast to talk to the palm. Come on, it has been a while since I made a dad joke, right? This movie might just have been the most disappointing offering when you compare it to the hype that was surrounding it, but we do all still keep coming back to the final battle where Doomsday takes on the trinity of Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. Well, it is effectively just him against the two god-level superheroes, while Bruce Wayne just tries to save himself from becoming collateral damage. Anyway, this is probably the most epic fight we've seen in the DCEU, and it's going to remain that way forever because James Gunn's vision is just around the corner. It starts off on an epic note as Gal Gadot wows us with her Wonder Woman costume, and then we get to see a rampaging battle with no mercy spared for anyone. Gotta hand it to Superman for sacrificing himself in order to defeat Doomsday. Bro really countered his greatness weakness only to lose his life in the process. Imagine if they did this movie right. The final battle would have probably been even more intense.
This is my world.
No, Clark, don't.
You are my world.
Find myself criticizing fight scenes where stuntmen are basically just accommodating women half their size in one-sided battles. However, the stairway fight scene in Atomic Blonde looks so realistic that it genuinely feels as if everyone's fighting for their lives here. I love how Charlize Theron committed to this scene with all the training she had to go through. It's also great to see how there's no phoning in during the entirety of the sequence. You can also see the tactics Lorraine uses to fight against larger and probably stronger opponents, like when she uses her body weight to disarm the guy with the knife. The physicality of the entire scene perfectly showcases just how human all of these fighters are. Also, here's some trivia for you. Charlize Theron insisted on doing the fighting herself and ended up with broken bones after actually taking a couple of hits. Yeah, that must have been a pain to deal with, so I hope this epic scene was worth it for her.
Fucking hell!
You'll never stop at one. I'll take you all on!
The late 2000s were such an epic era. You had bands like Linkin Park still owning the music scene, and Megan Fox wasn't dating Machine Gun Kelly. Also, movies used to be a lot more entertaining. I mean, just look at the Transformers franchise for reference. While the first film may have underpowered Optimus Prime against Megatron, Revenge of the Fallen did more than correct its wrongs by giving us a delightful fight scene. Optimus is no pushover here, as he manages to take down multiple Decepticons all by himself while also fighting against Megatron. What I don't get though is the fact that Megatron called him weak after he stabbed him in the back.
You're so weak.
That too only when Optimus wears down after defeating all his other opponents. I mean, this is as godly as it gets when it comes to robot fight scenes, and it does beg the question, if this is how only a few Autobots and Decepticons can battle, then what would the Battle of Cybertron have looked like?
I am Optimus Prime, and I send this message to any surviving Autobots taking refuge among the stars. We are here. We are waiting.
Pick on someone your own size.
That's such a you thing to say. Go get him, Tiger! Big CGI fight coming up.
Yeah, this is just a straight out battle of brawns as we see Colossus and Juggernaut showing off their super strength over an extended period of time. Of course, you'd think that the metallic mutant wouldn't last long against a giant dude with anger issues, but then again, you need to remember that Colossus has great fighting techniques. That's what actually helps him compete against Juggernaut for as long as he did, but eventually, bro had to take fighting dirty to a whole other level. I guess you've got to do what you've got to do when you've got a rampaging unit to deal with. Anyway, some of the moves on display were brilliant, especially those elbow strikes. And yeah, I hope we can all appreciate the fact that Colossus used brass fence knuckles on Juggernaut even after he already had a fully metallic body. I mean, that's kind of like adding some fingers to your fist. Okay, I mean, that probably sounds like something Deadpool would say, so you know what, just forget I said that.
That's how we do it in Mother Russia.
Praying mantis, very good. For catching bugs, but not tiger.
Jet Li and Jackie Chan are the equivalents of gods in the world of martial arts, so it's only fitting to have them fight it out over here in this legendary scene from 2008's Forbidden Kingdom. Watching Old Hop against the Silent Monk was nothing short of spectacular because it was no talk, all action. Yeah, this sequence was so perfectly balanced, even Thanos would have given it a standing ovation. There's not much to highlight over here apart from the fact that each and every moment should be treasured. We don't always get to see two legacy actors facing off against each other, so we should be grateful that such a clip even exists. The use of slow motion isn't excessive and rather adds more depth to the intensity of some of the blows as well. What I found particularly entertaining was when Jackie Chan does a push-up with one hand in the middle of what is supposed to be the most hyped fight in the entire film. What I also found funny about this movie is that it's directed by the same dude who did Stuart Little, Rob Minkoff.
怎么，喝酒换成你了？
有酒不跟人同享，天下第一大罪。干杯！
Ain't no way a TV Regent video is going to cover god-level fights and not include something from a John Wick film. The overhead gunfight with the Dragon Breath rounds remains one of the most innovative fight sequences in modern Hollywood, and rightly so. This was straight out of a video game, and it had me so hooked that I almost started looking for my controller in the cinema hall. We all know how much of a threat John Wick is. You have to be a special kind of deadly if the freaking Russians are calling you the boogeyman. However, what sells this sequence perfectly is the editing and cinematography. I'm pretty sure the director took a risk with this style because at the end of the day, you don't know whether the audience is going to like something innovative. Luckily for him and Keanu Reeves though, we all loved it and keep coming back to this scene whenever we're short on thrills.
Tell them all. Whoever comes, whoever it is, I'll kill them. I'll kill them all.
I just spoke about how John Wick is a fixed entry in such videos, and I have to show the same kind of love to Tony Jaa because this man is operating on levels that, you know what, we haven't even heard of yet. The final battle of Ong Bak 2 saw Tien facing off against a never-ending swarm of opponents, but he didn't back down and actually fought them all with the same energy and passion as I do when I'm devouring my favorite pizza. You could be watching this scene at any age and you're still gonna feel the same love for it. There's also a fun little detail if you pay close attention to Tien's hands and movements. He makes more of a claw while fighting the guy with the spike gauntlets so that he can grab and restrain the movements of his arms to avoid the spikes. Rather than trying to attack his padded armoring, Tien opts to go low and target his lesser protected legs. Then he transitions back to his normal blunt style with closed fists, and he's focused on the torso of the guy with no armor at all. It's details like these that make me love such movies even more. Yeah, this is probably the most memorable scene from Captain America's Civil War, maybe if we exclude the Spider-Man entrance. Now there's a lot happening in this fight, and it's got more to do with themes like trust and betrayal, rather than a simple case of, come at me bro. Iron Man takes on both Captain America and the Winter Soldier in this extended battle, which obviously had to end adversely for the genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, because the writers needed Steve Rogers to get out there alive. Anyway, the detailing in this sequence is what elevates it to such a high spot, and you've also got to give it to Bucky for sacrificing his arm in the process. Sure, it's not vibranium, so Tony only needed one chest cannon to end that drama, but the plot armor on Captain America was probably 10 times stronger than any metal that the Marvel Universe has ever created.
He's my friend. So was I. Stay down. Final warning. I could do this all day.
Leave it to someone like Donnie Yen to indirectly let you know that all those karate classes you paid for were nothing more than an elaborate scam. The famous battle from Ip Man where the titular hero defeats 10 black belts in the span of a few minutes will forever stay fresh in our minds because of the sheer humiliation he inflicts on the fighting style. Bro wasn't even trying that hard, and he still managed to make a mockery of what many people consider to be a peak method of martial arts training. Of course, Ip Man had other things on his mind, and the blatant violations he handed out to all of those clueless schmucks was almost hilarious at a certain point. I wonder how much he charged for training me in that style. It didn't take long for Tony Jaa to show up once again, and why not? Bro cracks more spines and bones in this scene alone than what Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man could hope to crack in his entire life. There are actually quite a few similarities between Calm and John Wick. You know, they're both lethal assassins, they have a never say never attitude, and most importantly, they only awaken beast mode when they lose their favorite animal. In the case of Calm over here, it's his elephant, and oh boy, does he lose it or what. The way Calm mercilessly takes down an endless barrage of goons while snapping and cracking their bones was top-class stuff. It also made me feel sorry for all the celery that must have gotten ruined while recording the sound effects for this scene. Man, Calm was doing so much damage so effortlessly that it almost felt as if his strikes were some kind of dance moves.
Kill him properly this time. Okay, Thor, hit me.
The DC Trinity may have given us a good fight, but it didn't make the kind of money that Warner Brothers needed to compete against the MCU. That's because up until Avengers Endgame, Disney knew how to please its audience. It may have gone all downhill after that, but let's not focus on the negatives for now, okay? The OG Trinity of the Avengers taking on Thanos was exactly the kind of reminder we needed about who really made this franchise. Iron Man, Thor and Captain America were the stalwarts of the MCU and will always be remembered as the three key characters of the most successful franchise in cinematic history. As far as the fight scene is concerned, we get all kinds of crowd-pleasing moments, such as Thor turbocharging Iron Man and even Captain America lifting the God of Thunder's favourite hammer Mjolnir. The only reason this scene didn't break into my top 10 was because Thanos wasn't defeated by these three legacy characters. They say God can forgive anyone for anything, but I'm not sure the people who said this would have seen the church massacre from the first Kingsman movie. Harry Hart goes berserk to the most extreme degree in this action-packed sequence wherein he submits to the murderous tone of Freebird and starts assassinating everyone in front of his eyes. Well, in his defense, his victims were also trying to do the same thing, but the only difference is that Harry has a set of skills that would even make Liam Neeson piss his pants. Colin Firth's acting is phenomenal here, and the brutality on display was nothing short of God's wrath raining hell upon us all. That was, of course, until the song stopped playing and Harry just realised he ended a lot of people's lives. This was a battle a lot of us wanted to watch ever since the world of Harry Potter took over our lives. Luckily, we got to see the Royal Rumble of the Wizarding World in Order of the Phoenix, where Voldemort and Dumbledore gave each other a run for their money. It was an epic encounter with both sides not holding back and showing us a few of their many tricks, whether it was Voldemort unleashing a flaming snake dragon or Dumbledore trapping him in a water sphere. The effects worked well against the dark backdrop, and the stakes never felt higher. Even Harry Potter himself was like, damn, ain't no way I can compete against that level of power.
You're a fool, Harry Potter. And you will lose everything.
This scene might be a monster battle, but it's got all the makings of a fight worthy of the gods. Seeing King Kong dominate and destroy 3 V-Rexes, all while keeping his beloved Anne safe and sound, was an S-tier flex that people should be talking about a lot more. The uniformed layman may just look at this as a giant gorilla fighting the ancestors of the same bird we eat at KFC, but of course, there's a lot more to it than genetics. These V-Rexes are super deadly and should be able to rival the T-Rex from Jurassic Park. So, for King Kong to defeat all of them with such ease speaks volumes of the power that he possesses. He might even be stronger than the Monsterverse Kong. I guess we'll never know unless Legendary Pictures also catches the multiverse flu.
There's only one way this ends, Cal. Either you die, or I do.
Yep, a solo Superman battle was all that was missing from this list, and he finally makes his mark at number 7. The battle against General Zod was a great way to introduce the world to the DCEU's dark, gritty style, but unfortunately, the follow-ups needed to be a lot better. Anyway, after all the punches and laser beams, it's Kal-El who emerges victorious, but not without snapping the neck of the only Kryptonian left in the universe. There was some serious power on display here, and I gotta give it to both Henry Cavill and Michael Shannon for their convincing performances. Thank God they didn't resort to method acting for the big snap. That wouldn't have ended well for anyone. Imagine having to justify a fight by making it 2 versus 1. That's exactly what happens in the first Raid film when Rama and his brother Andy face off against the Mad Dog. I'm not sure who came up with that name, but it sure feels apt given the context of this savage battle. I actually started off the Raid series with the second film, so I went into this one thinking that Rama would easily beat Mad Dog. Oh boy, was I wrong or what? Even with Andy, Rama had to really pull out his best moves and then some to be able to end Mad Dog. Even stabbing the guy wasn't enough. They literally had to slit his throat to make sure that they got rid of him. See, this is why I always say that size doesn't matter. There are quite a few movies that mess with your head, but 2003's Oldboy makes you want to question the very concept of morals. Luckily, this isn't a philosophy channel, so we're just going to talk about the legendary corridor fight scene where Daisuo gives us all a masterclass in how to defeat an army of opponents attacking you all at the same time. To be honest with you, it's the direction that sells this scene more than anything else, because Daisu is made to look like a singular force strong enough to get past a whole wave of assassins. The smile he gives us when he finally overcomes his enemies is made to be ambiguous, but we were all smiling because the guy we rooted for had come out on top. Of course, none of us were rooting for anything anymore after we found out the big twist of this film. I may have mocked Bruce Wayne earlier in the Doomsday scene, but he more than makes up for it here in this warehouse fight. I still don't get how these goons really thought that a Dark Knight would enter from the front door, but hey, they get punished enough soon after, so I'm fine with it. At this point, watching the warehouse battle is almost like tradition for me, because it's the best we'll ever see of Batfleck. His merciless taking down of those opponents perfectly symbolized what Batman was known for, which is why this entry also scores points for authenticity. Once again, we have a scene where Thanos emerges the victor, but it's like they say, it's not the destination, but the journey that counts. Truer words have never been spoken, because Doctor Strange was the one who looked like he was dominating this fight all by himself. He really managed to make Thanos sweat in a solo battle with Infinity Stones, so I can only assume that he would have easily won the fight if the Mad Titan was all by himself. When Doctor Strange is involved, you know the visuals are going to be peak, which is exactly what we got treated to. Sometimes I really do wonder if Stephen Strange is a secret god in hiding. Yeah, Everyone must have been expecting to see the grand finale of The Matrix where Neo becomes the One, but that was a one-sided battle, so it wouldn't have done justice to this video. This is why I've decided to include a more balanced fight between Neo and Agent Smith. As a matter of fact, it's so balanced that the winner is a subway train. There are some cool fight moves involved, and most importantly, this is the moment when Neo actually starts to believe in the truth. The context of the scene in the film is extremely important, which is why it lands at number 2. Well, I've always prided myself on being an equalist, so I had to give the top spot to the ladies for this one. Yushu and Jenyu put on a captivating display in this fight scene. So let me just clarify that this isn't a diversity quota I'm hitting here. There's actual merit to this sequence. The characters are so heavily invested in this battle that it makes you wonder if Michelle Yeoh and Ziyi Zhang actually had beef behind the scenes. Whether it's the choreography or the sharp editing, this battle ticks all the boxes of an S-tier fight, and that's why it gets the number 1 spot on today's list. Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to the TV Regent, and here's another video that I know you're going to enjoy.